Hey,
What's up?
what's up? How's
How
it
you
going?
doing?
Doing well. You hear me jamming to Al Green with
Yeah, I hear you. Moving that old school, huh?
food with me.
I ain't mad at it.
Right. So everybody, thanks for joining in on this live. We're gonna be talking about dating and waiting and all that good stuff. I'm gonna be asking you some questions. I don't know how, candid you are, but we're about to get this on and popping,
Let's
okay?
get it. Let's get it. Let's keep it real.
So I want you to introduce yourself to everyone who's watching.
Okay, cool. My name is Christopher King. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm 28 years old. I'm a Christian. Um, I'm an attorney, athlete, trainer, model, and a whole bunch of different things, right? But yeah, just coming to the live. Thank you for, opening your platform to me, and hopefully have some good conversation. Hopefully help some people.
Yes, thank you for accepting. I know
No
that,
problem.
man, we've been knowing each other for a little bit, not knowing each other, but like
But
following
yeah,
each other for a long time. And before COVID, I was like, hey, I need to get this dude on some type of stuff that I'm doing with my talk show when I was doing it back in the day. So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for accepting the invitation because you're popping now. You're
I don't know about that. We trying to do a little something though. Appreciate it though. Appreciate it.
awesome.
Thank you for again the opportunity. It's a
No,
pleasure.
no problem. So also, you guys, if you have any questions for, do they call you Chris or Christopher, or how do you like?
It doesn't matter, but Chris, is easier.
Okay. If you guys have any questions for Chris and I, you can comment in the box, the question box, because it's easier for me to get to them. But I want to start off and jump in it and just ask you a couple of questions. Like, what started you on this journey of dating and waiting? What started you on this journey?
Okay. Initially, like the whole, wait until marriage kind of thing, it started through football, right? And in undergrad, I was trying, to eliminate all distractions and kind of, give myself the best opportunity to get to the next level, watch the NFL, right? So me and one of my best friends, we kind of came up with this pact to just, eliminate drinking, smoking, sex, eliminate it all, right? Now, as I grew in my relationship with Christ, that motivation kind of changed. And I understood like I needed to do that more so for him and not for the NFL. Because what happens if the NFL doesn't work, which it
Right.
didn't, right? Will you still be able to walk this thing out? So as I grew my relationship with Christ, it just became part of me, right? And not
Wow.
that I define myself by it, but it's something that I feel like God has kind of equipped and called me to do. So I'm trying my best to walk it out to the end.
Yes, 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 yes. So how long did it take you to realize like, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this for God now?
Oh, really? Not long at all. Look, I made that decision going into my freshman year in college, and really by the end of that year, I would say by the end of that like calendar year, um, that motivation kind of changed. He surrounded me with some amazing men that that really sharpened me spiritually,
Yeah.
right? That really sharpened me spiritually, and we was doing life together, right? Literally every day out the week at Henderson State. We was in Refuge or BCM or FCA or accountability group or church.
Mm,
Every day we was in something but game day, right? So we grew tremendously at a fast rate in undergrad.
I love that. I love that. So really the people that were around you they was helping you out. They were encouraging you. I was like accountability partners.
Well, that came later.
Okay.
It was a little rough at first because I mean obviously I'm in a fraternity. Uh, was
Yes.
playing ball and stuff like that. People did not get it right. A lot of my teammates and stuff was calling me gay and was doing this and just a whole bunch of things, right? So that group of men didn't come to like the end of my freshman year, sophomore year, right?
Right.
So that whole freshman year, I just was like, you know what? Man, we got to stand on it by ourselves. And I kind of isolated myself. And if it was about school and grinding, and that was about it. So God kind of taught me throughout that process to kind of stand alone, right? And be comfortable with standing alone. And then as I kept doing that, he brought, men around me that encouraged me and kept me, going.
Wow, wow. I seen a question here and it was part of one of my questions. What do you do to maintain your purity and how do you get rid of those urges? Because we already know we all get those urges every now and then. So do you have any special techniques or
Mm.
you know what? I'm about to jump in the shower, or you know what, I'm just gonna just start praying. Like, what do
Yeah.
you do to like maintain that?
I don't know if I have any special techniques, and I definitely wouldn't say I'm pure, right? I think pure is that is the goal, obviously. And I definitely wouldn't say I'm pure, but I'm working. I'm working towards it, right?
Okay.
What do I do in the meantime when those urges come? Because they definitely come, I'm a man just like anybody else. Work out a lot, as you could probably see. Get creative. I do a lot of art. I do a lot of poetry. I watch a lot of movies. I pick up different skills, right? Whether it's skating or basketball or whatever it is. I
Okay.
try to use that energy just to be constructive, to be creative, and to find new talents, right? To find new talents that God has kind of blessed me with. Because you got to do something, right? If you
Yes.
just sit there and not do nothing, you're going to end. Idle mind is the devil's playground, right? So you got to find a way to do something and to get active, right? And shoot, hey, go do 500 push-ups real quick. You'll be tired real quick. You know what I mean? You'll want to go to sleep right after. So sometimes you just got to push through, right? And look, I'm weak. I'm not perfect. Some days I win that battle. Some days I lose that battle. That is an ongoing, everyday thing, right?
Right.
So, but we jumping back on that horse, right? We're always trying to get better, and we're always trying to, defeat um, that sexual lust, I guess you could say.
Right. 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 See, okay, so you help the men out, workouts and all that. So I'm going to help the ladies. For me,
Okay, get them
well,
right.
I go to sleep. No, I'm playing. No,
I
I'm
was
just
about to say, I mean, hey, if that works.
honestly, I just start creating. Like, there's a lot of things that I like to. I like to write. Like, if you look in my office, I have journals everywhere, like just on my desk. So I like to write. I like to go out, get my mind off things. When I say go out, I mean like nature, like not like going out. But I like to go out in nature. Like, if anybody in Georgia that lives in Georgia, Lake Lanier is a nice place. I go there. I write. I pray. A lot of times I do that, or I just ignore it. You know what I'm saying? Just ignore it. Let's see, so we got a question in here. What has been the biggest trap someone attempt to get you into bed? Man, they jumping right on in it. I was going to start asking those type of questions later, but he said, what has been the biggest trap? Have there been any temptations where a woman um, reached out to you, y'all went out, and she tried to trap you in a sense? Have you had any stories about that?
I don't really have any stories of women trying to trap me. I'm gonna be honest, like I don't really. I understand, like everybody has different agendas and stuff, but I kind of only mess with good women. I don't ever, I can't recall me having like a bad experience with a woman trying to trap me, because I have a very thorough vetting process, right? Just to see a woman's character, how she moves,
Uh,
what's her intentions and stuff like that. So it it won't even really go that far if I'm seeing like certain red flags. I'm like, nah,
yeah.
this ain't it, right? So every woman that I've even been on, even if it was just one date, right? They're still like at a certain standard to be like, nah, like this is a good woman. Now it might not work out, right? But that has nothing to do with them trying to trap me. I
Right.
don't think I've ever. I can't recall. If I have, it's been a long, long time. I can't recall a woman just trying to trap me and me, one, not recognize it up front and being
Right.
like, no, I mean, I see what you're doing. No judgment, but I see what you're doing and, it's not going to work. But,
Right.
you know.
You need to for the person who asks that, you need to use your discernment. Like you said, you don't get in those situations because you use your discernment. And that's the type of stuff that I do as well. Like, you have to use your discernment. Like, I feel like a lot of people who get trapped kind of wanted to be trapped. Like, you put yourself in situations. And
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that as well, because I mean, I ain't perfect either. We're gonna be real. There's certain things that we do and we kind of like, should I do it? I think I know this might could happen, or this might can go somewhere, but we still trap us. Have you done that? Have you been in situations where you
Yeah.
got
Especially
up?
in undergrad, I put myself in bad situations too many times to count, to be honest. So I definitely want to say, I just have this crazy willpower. But I will say this: by now, like I've gained a certain amount of stamina to where like certain things are not just gonna get me, right? Like
Right.
I know for some people, I've had this conversation before. Some people can't kiss because they know that's gonna like trigger and kind of lead them. Like stuff like that, like it's just not, it's not going to get me, right? But I have put myself in bad situation where I was like literally one move from like, you know, going off to the deep end. And in those times, man, that conviction was heavy on me. I literally even have a vision of, I remember this, like one time in undergrad, I was, you know, in the bed with a woman, just, you know, chilling and stuff like that. And I really, it felt so real. It was real. Like in the corner of the room, I felt like God just kind of looking at me and just kind of pleading with me, hey, like, don't do it. And, you know, obviously we have free will, but he was like, I'm telling you, I got something for you. Don't do it. And it was so heavy on me that I just had to be like, you know what, I gotta go straight to sleep. So we just kind of went to sleep and kind of killed it. And obviously, like I said, that like those women in those positions, they never be like, oh, Chris, let's do this. We got to do this.
Right.
They normally kind of, for the most part, they kind of follow the man's lead. I'm gonna say that to a certain extent.
Okay.
So if you kind of, as a man, and this is man's perspective, if you kind of shut it down, chances are it's not really going to like go, you know, further than that. Sometimes, maybe,
Right.
I don't know. It depends on the person, I guess. I don't know.
That's a good advice right there, you guys. And you said like men shut it down. Like, yes, I don't ever. I never heard of a story of someone saying, like a woman saying, "Oh no, you better sleep with me or else." Like,
Yeah.
it never happens. But I do have a question. When you do talk to these women, people that you have met, do they already know your background, your story, or do you tell them? And if you do tell them, when when's the right time of telling these women like, hey, yo, you know, I'm a virgin? And also, how do they respond? Do you get positive feedback or negative feedback from that?
Yeah. So
Like three questions in one.
right. So the first one was what was the first one again?
So the first one is, so when you start dating, do women know your story?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so usually, if they've seen my social media, chances are they probably kind of at least have an idea. Yeah, so majority of the time they kind of already know, or at least have some type of, you know, speculation about it. When do I tell them? It's not like I don't have like a set time frame of when I tell it. I love having deep conversations. So usually within the first to kind of third date or something, or long deep talk or interaction or whatever, that topic comes up, right? It's not that I'm just like, oh, first date, we got to talk about this.
Right.
Not necessarily. I don't, you know, put that on somebody because we don't even know if we like each other at that point, right? So it just kind of, you know, takes time. And like I said, I like having deep conversations. So when it does come up, because it will, we just have an honest conversation about it. And the reactions I get. So when I was like in undergrad, when I was younger and stuff, I would get the reaction like, oh, he's just too holy. He's too like Christian for me. He's too like spiritual for me. Either that kind of like puts them off and they're like, nah, that's just not for me. Or they look at it like a challenge, like, you know, hey, well, you ain't never had me before, right? Or they fall in love with it, and then now they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta try to marry this guy, right? So I get kind of three different, I've gotten three different reactions. Now so much, it's more of like, either they like, oh, that's not for me, and they just kind of keep the distance is what it is. Or they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. I kind of want to marry you or try to marry you,
Yeah.
right? I guess the older I get, that's more of a kind of pushing thing.
Yeah, yes. So do you think it's a good idea to let people know? 'Cause someone said, why tell them? Do you think it's a good idea to let people know, if even if it's on the first date, do you think it's a good idea to let them know, hey, I'm waiting, and that's that? Or you want to have you been in situations where you dated for someone for a while and then you shared that later on? The reason why I'm asking this, a few years ago, I was on the Steve Harvey show explaining how, you know, I'm, you know, abstinent and all this stuff, and that why men, even church men, they say they'll wait, but then they don't, you know. And one thing that he told me, Steve Harvey told me, which I kind of disagreed on, he said, you will want to date someone for a long time. And when it gets serious, then you tell them you're waiting. And I feel like I don't really agree with that. I feel like all of that should be said kind of in the beginning stages so they won't be expecting anything. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, you got to know what's comfortable for you, right? I think every person is different. Like I said, I think anywhere between that first and third date is like a really solid time, because once you're starting to like date for a while, right, and really get invested and really start liking a person, that could be a deal breaker for that person, that they're not down, and you got to respect that, right? Um, and it's kind of like anything of like, oh, I'm not gonna tell nobody to have kids. Well, that could be a deal breaker for somebody. Like everybody's deal breakers are
Yeah.
different, right? And I'm not saying that has to be the first thing coming out your mouth. I don't think that's wise to be like, hey, my name is Chris. I'm a virgin. I'm waiting until I get married. I don't think that's
Right.
wise, because now you're defining yourself by that, right? Like that's the first thing about you you're gonna tell. And I don't think that's necessarily smart.
Mhm.
But within the first, like, first date to third date, you should be talking about certain type of things to be like, oh, well, this is how I live my life, because I dedicated my life to Christ and I'm big into, like, that should just naturally come up, right?
Right.
It really should.
Right. So, what are some of your deal breakers?
Ooh, deal breakers. A woman that's like full of like drama and like super catty and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that. Um, I wouldn't say having a kid is a deal breaker.
Mhm.
It might make things a little difficult. It really just depends on the person. But I don't think I could do more than one. Because I kind of want a good bit myself. So
Right.
I don't know if I could do more than one. Um, a woman that's like overly complacent,
Oh,
right? That's just kind of comfortable with where she's at and doesn't want to be better. One of my biggest things is every day I got to grow mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Every day I got to find a way to get better. And if she kind of doesn't live her life on that, it's eventually going to have cause an issue. Another deal breaker. Hmm. Bad hygiene. I think that's
yeah.
understood.
Uh,
I love a woman. I love a woman that has some swag, right? That could dress it up, that could dress it down, that can look good. With her hair tied or dolled up, whatever, right? I love a woman that kind of has that. Oh, I'm gonna say this. I know everybody has insecurities to a certain extent, but when it's so much, that's a little too much, right? I need my woman to be confident in herself,
okay.
right? To be able to walk and to be able to be like, no, not that you're better than anybody else, but you know who God made you to be, and you're not like, you don't like suppress that, right? What else? That that's it off top. Off
Okay.
top, I have some more, but I can't think of it off top.
Nice. So, does it go down in the DMs? Like, let's start talking about your content for a quick moment, okay? I love your videos. They're hilarious. One of my favorite videos was when it was like during the holidays, and I was going
Okay.
to actually duet you, okay? I was
The
going,
pulling one,
huh?
the one like Santa Claus one, or was it a different one?
Yeah, like Santa was pulling you. You're like, oh my gosh, so many girls is asking for a good man, and you're like kind of
Hmm.
struggling.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my friends, they were rolling, and I was gonna duet you and do the same thing, but so life.
Okay. Yeah.
That was so dope. Does it go down in your DMs because you put yourself out there and you share your story and you're proud of it? And but I know this must be some women in your DMs like, hey, what's up? Like what's your DMs looking like right now?
What you mean by going down in the DMs, right?
Well,
Like,
like what I mean by that is it like is your DMs hot? It,
um, I mean, I guess a lot of people DM me. I wish I can see all of them, but I really can't. Because sometimes it just kind of comes in floods, like when I post something or something like that. So I try my best to like read and respond to a lot of them.
mm-hmm.
But does it go down? I mean, I guess. I mean, people are gonna hit up, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this, like, I've seen, especially for the last couple of years, that people like would message me about literally everything from their relationship to God to legal advice to shooting their shot to
Nice.
like training to art to so many different things, right? And I guess because I do a lot of different things too. So I guess that's probably why mostly, because it's all not just like women shooting their shot and stuff
Right.
like that. It's the variety is so vast, to be honest. So yeah, it sometimes gets a little overwhelming. But I try my best, like I said, to respond to everybody, or to at least see it, or to acknowledge it, because I know it takes a lot to kind of DM somebody, so I try my best to handle it accordingly.
That's nice. That's nice. What would you say to a young boy that's struggling with his sexuality, struggling with, masturbation, things like that? What kind of advice would you give them? Because right now I feel like, even though you keep saying you're not perfect, no one is, but I feel like a lot of these men older than you are looking up to you. So what would you say to someone like that?
Yeah. One, if you're that young and you haven't started yet, please don't start. Hey, you're gonna save yourself a lot of time. Um, Understand that it's gonna be a fight every day, and that's with anything. Whether you've had sex before, whether you haven't, whether you're a virgin, whether you're just struggling with porn, whatever it is, it's gonna be a fight every single day, right? But you're equipped for it, right? Like God has created you to fight that good fight, right? Get around a solid group of
Yeah.
men that can hold you accountable. I think that is so important, right? Men that also, I'm gonna say this, men that also know the struggle, right? Because, how to say this right? Like, I think a lot of people are gonna struggle with it, right? But if you're very open and attractive to a certain extent, and like just talking and being funny and doing all these great qualities, it's going to be a lot easier than some people. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
And with that, you're going to have to be more battle tested. That's just what it is, right? I know a lot of people, they look at my page and be like, "Oh, you're doing this X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada." But like, man, I've been pretty battle tested, right? And I have a strong group of men around me that hold me accountable. So I think that's really important. And lastly, I would say, if the goal is to be everything that God has created you to be, right? If that's the goal, and that means mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, as a father, as a husband, as a leader, as a just a reflection of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take dying to yourself,
Yes.
right? You're going to have to die to yourself in those moments, and it's not always hard. Look, I understand that it's not always easy. I mean, but like, you're going to have to get comfortable with doing that, and you have to trust. And hey, this is something every day I was just kind of having quiet time with God, and something like, you got to trust that He has your best in mind,
Yeah.
right? I kind of came to that realization to me like today, like, God, I feel like I don't trust you all the way. Like, I feel like there's another level of just trusting you, right? Because every sin is rooted in you not believing that God has His best plan for you, and that
Right.
He's not a good father. Every sin stems from that, right? So if I can really trust God, that even through all these things that I may want or may look shiny, or all these different things, if I can trust that, hey, God, I trust you, that,
Come on.
hey, my wife is there, it's going to be an amazing marriage, or my career, or X, Y, and Z. I trust you with my life, my entire life, right? Then I think it equips you to battle that sin in those moments a little better, a little easier,
Yes.
right? And hey, look, that's something literally God just kind of told me today. So like, I'm still kind of working through that and fighting one day at a time myself.
Wow, wow. Oh my gosh. Like that, I caught chills while you were saying that, because it kind of reverts back to my story. I can trust him in certain areas, but when it
Mhm.
gets to a specific area, I'm like, I trust God with, waiting and dating. I trust him in that. Other things is a different story. And when you
Right.
say, sometimes we have to come, honestly, we have to come to a realization within ourselves and say, I don't trust you fully, God. And that's kind of scary to say.
Oh man, it is, right?
And
Because
it's
it's like, why? Especially when you intellectually and like you understand who God is, you understand His character. Because it's like, well, I know all these things. I know what your word says. I know this, and it's like, why
yeah,
am I still not trusting it? I trusting everything. And when I tell you, I was literally like just thinking about all this stuff today. it really hit me, and I was like, man, Chris, you gotta sit down and ask yourself,
Right.
what's holding me back from trusting you? And
Right.
for me, I might as well, hey, let the Spirit lead me. For me, I think it all stemmed from, part of me was so disappointed when the NFL thing didn't work,
Mm.
and it's still like, I'm over it to a certain extent, but it still has a little residue in it that's like, man, I don't want to dive all the way into something and I just look up and be like, and be
Right.
disappointed again, right?
Yes.
And that's hard, and I'm still trying to deal with that and work through that, right? But that kind of where it kind of stemmed from, of like not trusting a, 100,000%, right?
Right.
So
I don't mean to cut you
no,
off,
you
but
good.
a little bit about the NFL situation because you did bring it up a couple of times. I just wanted to know the background on that.
Yeah, so when I was younger, obviously, that was the goal. When I was in high school, hey, I want to get to the NFL and play and all that good stuff. So I made all, like I said, going into college, I made all these provisions of like, hey, I'm gonna do this, not do this, X, Y, and Z, yada yada. And in college, I worked my behind off. Like, I mean, working out 3 times a day, watching buku film, and I mean, like, literally doing anything and everything I possibly could to get a shot, right? And I ended up leading my team in interceptions one year. Didn't get no accolades, which kind of pissed me off, but it gave me that I guess drive to even go harder, right? So I did, and then had a tryout draft day, didn't get drafted, had a tryout with the Saints, had a tryout, a couple calls from a couple other teams, but it just didn't work. It just did not happen, right? And it hurt. It hurt. And I was mad. And I was like, I ended up praying this prayer, and it was one of the hardest prayers I ever prayed. I was like, God, if you're not in it, I don't want it. But with praying that, I realized that mean it might not happen, you know? And it was hard because I was like, all right, what now? You
Mm.
know? Now, mind you, told me to go to law school and do all this stuff, and I've done it. I've been obedient. And part of me is still like, okay,
Right.
what is going to come from all this, right? Because I'm being obedient, I'm trying to stay focused, I'm trying to do everything the right way, and it's just like, man, it's like a waiting game, and I'm still walking it out, right? Um, Look, it ain't easy, right? It's definitely not. But my whole thing is, I gotta see, I gotta find, because, like I said, flipping the other way and just wilding out and just letting my flesh go wild. I know what that's going to end, right?
Right.
Like, I literally know what's going to
Right.
happen from that, right? So it's not that I can turn the other way. So I just gotta
Keep
be
going.
faithful, being frustrated, right? Like, work through that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think everybody, if you're trying to become everything God you created you to be, you're going to go through seasons like that. I think it's part of the process.
Well, I just want to encourage you. Like when you were talking, like I promise you, I don't know why I'm like normally on my lives I'd be okay, but I'm just so emotional for some.
Yeah.
I feel like God. Oh, give me one more.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oof. I really feel like God is like I feel God, and I just want to encourage you. Oh God, Jesus. Keep going, okay? Like just keep going because God has so much for you. I feel like you thought the NFL was all that he had for you, and that's not even. God has way more than that. It may not be the NFL, but God has way more for you than that. I promise you he does, which is why he's doing what he's doing right now for you in your life. The reason why you're on this path. The NFL is not it. The NFL is not, oh yes, I made it. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? God,
Yeah.
God, like I feel like you put like a limit over your head, and you say, okay, this is what I want to do, and it's not even take off the limits on God.
Yeah.
Take off the limits on God because I'm telling you, this is the only lie that I cried on. Okay, and I promise
No,
you,
I
I do
appreciate you.
not want to sit here and cry and all this other stuff, but God is moving in your life. And I'm so thankful that I even know you just a little bit just to say, yo, like, look at him now. So I just want to encourage you right now that it's going to get better. And I know you say you have a little residue of the NFL, but wow, what God has in store for you, it beats that and then some.
Yeah, yeah.
Then
I really appreciate you saying that and just being vulnerable and kind of open up because I mean, like you said, I'm trusting and believing that, right? And I'm walking that out, and I received that 100%. And my biggest thing was I've always been, I guess, obsessed with like seeing exceedingly, abundantly, and more than anything we can ever imagine, right? Um, but and I guess that's why like I relate to Joseph and David so much, like in the Bible, because you got to go through those waiting seasons to get to that get to where you was
yeah,
called to be, like your destiny, right? And for so long, it always felt like, okay, well, I'm in the season, I'm in the season, I'm still in the season, I'm still in the season. So I really appreciate your encouragement. I received that. I received that
yeah,
100%. And
yeah.
I'm, like you said, I'm keep going one day at a time. It may be hard, but I'm keeping going.
If you guys, oh my gosh, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and send them in. Um, I just want to encourage the ones who are on this live watching as well. I feel like this message should, I mean, this topic shouldn't be dating and waiting. It should be keep going.
Right, right.
It should be keep going, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what it looks like. Keep going. And man, I could just think about everything that God has done. And you think that, okay, I'm here. I see myself here, but I'm here.
Yeah,
What's going to happen in between this time? And then
yeah,
you look up and you see yourself right across. And I thank God. And I want you guys, I promise you, I want you guys to keep going. Whatever God called you to do, it's going to happen if you allow it to. That's how I know you're going to be great. All these titles, you got all these titles, all these, you got belts for. I'm like,
mm,
man, okay, lawyer. I didn't even know you was doing that. And
yeah,
so the only way it doesn't happen is literally if you don't want it to happen or if you don't allow yourself to happen, allow it to happen.
yeah. I received that. Like you said, just keep going. You
Yeah.
know, me and one of my best friends, Byron, like we was talking today. He was like, "Yeah, man, you have to trust that you're on the right track,
Yes.
and all of it's not just in vain, and you just got to keep pushing." Like literally, one thing we kind of live by is win the day, right? Just win
Yeah.
the day and just keep going,
Win
right?
the day. Yes.
And just trust that when that time comes, you'll be ready and it'll happen, and you'll be there, right? But I'm gonna say this too. I was so focused in undergrad about the NFL, the NFL, the NFL that I was missing, not to like an extreme extent, but I was missing a lot of precious time in college, right? Like
Yeah.
if I could go back and tell my college self just to be like, bro, enjoy it. Like literally enjoy going to practice. Enjoy the 110s. Enjoy the days when your body is aching. Enjoy playing the game, right? Enjoy going up to college. Enjoy eating calf 3 times a meal, right?
Right.
Like enjoy every aspect of it, right? Because when that season's over, that season is over, right? So, I'm trying to apply that to my situation now. Like just enjoy the present and where God has you and trust that when that time comes, you'll be ready,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. 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 I have a question. They said off topic. Do you do fitness brand promotions?
In terms of what, like repping a fitness brand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. I
Okay.
do pretty much all promotions to the most part, depending on like if I agree with the product or not. But for the most part, yeah, I definitely do.
Awesome. Someone else said you can be a sports agent. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Yeah, yeah, I've actually thought about that. Either sports or entertainment. I kind of look over contracts right now and stuff like that. So I think it might just be broad, like an entertainment aspect of it. Um, but yeah, I definitely am intrigued by that too. I think, to be honest, I think there's going to be one day where all these things and gifts that God has kind of given me kind of just intersects and
Yeah.
it just hits, right? So I just got to keep working at all of them, right?
Okay, we have someone said Ellie Barajas. She said I wasn't. Yeah, she said I wasn't going to join the live, but I believe this word was confirmation to my prayers. Keep.
Mm.
pushing and submitting my will to God's will. Definitely needed to take off limitations I put on God. Amen.
Right. And I literally just saw a video right before we jumped on the live about like we need to talk more about the pain that comes with like dying to your flesh and dying to yourself, right? Because that is a pain that you have to deal with, right? And it's just not easy. I know a lot of times we're like, oh, just submit to God, right? And just submit to his will. But sometimes, especially when it's something that you really wanted and when you really worked for and like you made sacrifices for, and God's like, no, that's not what I want you to do, right? That's a different type of pain, right? That's
Oh,
a different type of pain, and I think we need to talk more just about in the church community about really going through that,
yeah.
right? Because I don't think we talk about that enough.
No. They just say, oh, to you just pray, fast,
And
and
trust God.
just got
And yes, all those things are true, but you still have real emotions
yeah,
that you got to deal with,
yeah.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. Definitely. Let's see. The comments. Let's see. Everybody's encouraging you to do that. Sports agent. They're speaking of your law degree. Your law degree. Um, let's see. Okay. Someone said yes. It's not easy and sometimes lonely. Oh yeah. How did you when speaking of lonely, I know we suffer loneliness in different ways. You can be in a relationship and you can feel lonely. You could be in a room full of people and feel lonely. You can feel lonely at work. You can feel lonely in your purity. I keep saying purity, but I mean virginity.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
'Cause I know you're just like, oh,
yeah,
you
yeah.
pure. But how do you deal with that loneliness? Because when you make up in your mind and you make a decision to stand for something, not everybody's going to be with you, and a lot of times most of the closest ones kick you to the curb. So
Yeah.
can you share some light on that?
Yeah, how do you be lonely? It can be difficult at first, right? It really can. And like I said, like early, like in my undergrad years, God kind of taught me how to kind of stand alone, with my team and all this other stuff, kind of, having a different perspective about my lifestyle. So it prepared me a little bit for it. But even then, like it's still hard, right? Even when, everybody's getting married or having babies and doing this and doing that, and it's just rolling for everybody else. At least it seems that way. And you just over here like, uh. Now I know I make a lot of TikToks about, oh, wait, times when you will get lonely. So how do you combat that? How do you, like I said, I try to get creative. I watch a whole lot of rom-coms. I write a whole lot of poetry just to kind of, get it out some way. Yeah, it's difficult sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. But like you said, just kind of use that time to get to work, right? Use that time to get to work. Whether that's writing a book, whether that's writing poems, whether that's working on a different skill, learning how to cook, whatever. Try to use that to prepare for your wife or for your husband or for that opportunity or for whatever it is. Use that time constructively to better yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes. When you mentioned like you see everybody get married, having kids, like all my high school friends, like they either have a couple of kids, married, and I'm sitting there like I'm still like getting asked like what's my favorite color because like I'm
Yeah.
single, I don't have kids, you know? And so I sometimes I look at that and I was like, but you know what? Like I thank God for the decisions that I've made in my life through mistakes and setbacks and stuff like that because I feel like if I did not make that decision, I wouldn't. I feel like I'm way more wiser than I was. Like I feel like these little choices can turn out to be a big, like, you got to be careful with your choices. I tell people this all the time. And the little choices that we make on a day to day, like you said, is a every minute journey. Like it's
Right.
not like minute to minute, second to second for me. So it's like making these small little choices to do the right thing and to honor God. It literally, man, it stopped so much in my life. Like I could have went through a lot more than I have.
Yeah.
And felt like it was like a protection, you know? And I'm like, well, I thank you, God, because a lot of my friends, they have multiple kids and none of the fathers are in, you know, the child's life. And so
Mhm.
that I, you know, I could have been. And so I feel like these small little choices has done a lot in my life. How would you say the same for you?
1,000%. I can only imagine if I were to just like in those moments, in those critical moments where I had to make a decision, go left or right. If I
Mhm.
always would have took the other decision, I could only imagine where my life. And don't get me wrong, it's frustrating where I'm at now, but I can only imagine that the baggage or the soul ties or the things that I would just have to deal with
Yeah.
if I were to have made those decisions. Um, but like you said, I mean, there's no matter how we decide, like in those moments to do those decisions, there's always going to be a cross we got to carry. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's being a virgin and waiting till you're married, hey, that's a cross too. Whether it's, working through soul ties or having, a child or whatever it is, right?
Cross.
You're going to have to carry your own cross, right? So I don't want to, make anybody feel worse or
Yeah.
better or anything like that. You're going to have to carry a cross either way. Either
Right.
way. Now, you can decide of like, okay, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? But hey, that's each decision.
Right. Pick and choose your cross, y'all. Pick and choose your cross. Um, we have some questions. All right.
All
So
right.
we have, how do you handle the praise and the idea people think you're perfect? Ooh, that's a good one. How do you
Ooh,
handle
yeah.
how do you handle the praise and the idea of people thinking you're perfect? I like that question.
Yeah, that's actually,
I
believe
like
it or not, that's something I've like encountered a whole lot. A lot of times, I'll be talking to women and they get to know me and stuff like, oh, you're just perfect. And it's really hard because obviously I'm not, right? But it's like one, it creates an expectation to where I can't mess up, right? It creates an expectation to where like, no, you have to be perfect now, right? Um, and then like it creates an expectation of okay, well, we got to be getting married soon, right? You kind of fantasize it and stuff like that, and then like it it makes it extremely difficult. I'm gonna be honest. It really does because, like I said, I'm not perfect, right? I got issues and I got struggles just like everybody else.
yes.
Um, but yeah, I actually hate hearing that, to be honest. And it's weird because one, I was a late bloomer growing up, right? So the man you see now, I'm just now like really coming to my own. So everybody's like, praising me and stuff like that. And my
Right.
dad always told me, he was like, you're never as good as people say, you're never as bad as people say. You're always somewhere in the middle. And that kind of always kind of keeps me grounded. And I'm the first to tell somebody everything you see, every talent you see, the person you have, the everything you see in me, my profile, whatever, man, I know where it comes from, right? That's why my name and my tag is Christ is King. My name is Christopher King, but
Right.
the Christ comes first because it always allows me to remember that, hey, he comes first, period. Now,
Yeah.
like my last name is King. I know who he created me to be. I know that that's meaningful, right? But without that Christ coming first, that King means absolutely nothing. So I try to always remember that, and to also remember, man, I'm a sinner just like everybody else. Like
Right.
I'm not, I ain't nothing special, right? Like
Right.
to that extent, right?
Yeah.
I need God grace just like everybody else.
Does it make you feel like you putting on a facade sometimes? Like since people think you perfect, you kind of like try to be. Have you found yourself doing that?
Surprisingly, no.
Wow.
Surprisingly, no. Like, and I guess that's why I like my story. How he took me through all these things, like growing up, because like I feel like I'm doing all right. Like I feel like I'm doing, I'm doing all right. But I never looked at it like, oh, I'm perfect. I'm just trying to be the best me I can be, right? And this is really who I am. I know the people that say, oh, are you really real, or like, is this really you? Like, no, like this is really me, right? This is
Right.
really me. Yes, I'm not perfect. I love the Lord. I'm a Christian. I'm a virgin, but I love working out. Yeah, you're gonna see me with my shirt off. That's how I work out, right? I like being creative. I like art. I like poetry. I like I like doing things. I like acting. I like modeling. I like so many different things, and this is really who I am. So I'm not faking. I'm not trying to pull the wool over nobody's head. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. I'm just being me. And either you're gonna like it, and you are, and you're not, and that's cool too, right? Do your thing. It don't change me.
Right. I love that. I love that. We have someone who made a statement. They said, although we need to wait for the one, I've heard some people say we have to put in the work to find that too, and not leave everything to God. Thoughts on this?
And not to leave. So I've heard it like, I thought she was going somewhere else with it. I've heard it like you can't wait for the one, you gotta be the one first, and then that person would come, right? And yeah, I think that has some truth to it too. Like, hey, you gotta be doing your part, right? So as a man, right, you have to be making sure you're stable. You have to be making sure you're emotionally intelligent. You're got the romance, right? That your body's in point, right? That you're mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally always working to be your best self. And as you're being your best self, you're essentially preparing for that woman, right?
Right.
Asking yourself certain questions, diving into yourself, making
Right.
sure thinking about, hey, how is the plan of the house going to work, right? How is the financials going to work? Where are we going to live? Am I open to living certain things? Like, just kind of thinking about all those things to kind of prepare you for when that time comes, you'll be
Right.
more so ready, right?
Exactly.
I think there is still some part that I feel like God has to do to a certain extent,
Oh yeah.
especially if it's the one He's sending. But if you've been pairing like that, when the opportunity comes, you'll be able to ready to seize it, right? You'll be able to
Right.
be like, hey, this hurt. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Right.
But if you're not ready on your own self, you're just not going to be prepared for that moment because that moment's already set.
Right.
Like the God's already in that moment right now with you and your wife or you and your husband. He's already in that moment right now. The question is, are you going to be prepared for when that moment comes
Come on.
to make it
Yeah.
happen?
That reminds me of the video I just posted, preparing for what you're asking God for.
Right.
Like I don't like sitting and waiting. No, I don't believe that we should be sitting and waiting because I feel like what work we're putting in, God will do just that. And then also God has to do a work in us as well. So while God is working on us, we are working as well.
Right.
I don't believe in the sitting and waiting. So you never want to sit and wait. Always find yourself doing something and bettering yourself. I used to tell women all this time, like always the women that I coach, and I tell them, I say, you're praying for these things. I want a guy who's this, I want him to make money, I want him to have a nice car. I'm like, but what are you offering? What do you have? You want him to have a nice car, but you don't have one. You want him to be in shape, but you're not. So it's like pray for what you are. Pray for what you will want and be that. Be what
Yeah.
you're for. And
Exactly.
I say this all the time because you can't expect someone to keep giving, giving, giving. It has to be a two-way street.
Reciprocated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both parties have to benefit in that. So do not ever sit and wait.
Right. I think you got a good question. Do you see it? Do you believe we can miss our soulmate?
Oh, where's that? I don't see that.
It's in the comments. It's probably catching up.
Oh, go ahead and answer that one.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So for me, I look at things a little differently, right? So I don't believe like God has just put one person for one person, right?
Right.
Because I mean, there's so many things to that, but that means if one person chose the wrong person, that was somebody else's person. That means that other person didn't have that person, and it just it messes up everything, right? I believe God has giving us certain types of people that works best with us, that where you can accomplish your destiny, you can do everything He's called you to do with this type of person, right? So let's say there's 10 types of people, just for sake of argument, and you're a 9 and you match better with 4s and 1s, right?
Okay.
Now, you can go out and get a 6. It might not work. It might not, it might match well, but you can go out and get a 6 because it's your decision. Now, if you match with a 5 and a 1, then now you can accomplish everything that God has created you to accomplish with one of those people, right? Because there's so many different people in this world, right? You never know. Now, do I think you can miss that 5 or that 1? Yes. I think you can, because, you got free will. You can be like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. I'm going to go with this 10 because that's what I want, right? Or because it looks attractive, or whatever the reason, right? And it could be a whole lot of pain, a whole lot of things you might have to go through. So I think you can miss it to a certain extent. And that's why for me, and this is just for me, this kind of helps me sometimes, like, when I get weak, waiting and stuff like that. I never wanted to, I always had this vision, right? Me walking one day, after I get married or whatever, and I see this woman walk by, and I know she was supposed to be my wife, right? Like, this is who God, this is the number one. This was his best, right? But because of my decisions in those bad moments, all my mistakes or X, Y, and Z, I wasn't able to access that blessing. Now, was God's grace still sufficient? Was I able to bless? Yes, most definitely. Had all of that. But I got to see, like, what could have been if you would have been obedient, or what could have been if you would have denied your flesh a little more, right? And look, not to say like you got to live your life on every little thing with that, but sometimes that just helps me kind of really think of it like, nah, if I say I want God's best, Chris, in those hard times, sometimes you got to be like, no, this is the focus. This is what I got to get.
Right, right. I'm loving it. We got some more questions popping in while you talking.
Let's get them. Let's get them.
Let's see what's next. What red flag are you working on according to society?
Like, red flag with me?
Yeah, I guess.
What a red flag?
He said, according to society, what red flag are you working on according to society? So you know how this little new popular thing, everybody's like, oh, this is a red flag, that's a red flag, this is a red flag. So what red flag that you may have, that you feel like it may be a red flag for you, that society is saying is a red flag? Are you currently working on any? If not,
I'm always working to get better, but I don't know if I have any necessarily just straight out the gate red flags.
Yeah, I agree.
But one thing I'm working on just to get better is one, giving grace, right? Like giving grace with people's process. In my past relationships, I was, I've always saw potential, right? And I was like, nah, we got to get this stuff out of you, and X, Y, and Z, and yada, yada, yada. But sometimes I could be better at giving grace through that process, right? So I've kind of learned and been working on, Chris, how do you give grace throughout the process when somebody is kind of, going through that process? Because I'm going through my process too, right?
Right.
And it's not fair to just expect somebody to get to the potential that you see in them in a certain amount of time, right? Because that's just not reality. But give them that grace through that process, and I think I'm kind of learning. I'm a lot better than I was of doing that.
Nice, nice. Okay. In waiting until marriage, is sexual compatibility a concern for you? Ooh.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
So how would you know if you're
So me and one of my best, we literally just had this live in this conversation. I think it's important to have a certain type of sexual awareness even when waiting, right? And I'm not saying you got to get to the point of like you're going off deep and you're sinning and stuff like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not justifying sinning. All I am saying is, like, I think it's important when you're dating, especially when you get older, to have certain conversations, right? And to be blunt about it, and to be real about it, to be like, hey, this is what I expect sexually when I get married. This is what I don't expect. This is what I'm into, or even might be into, right? And this is like no-goes for me. Like I never plan on doing this, right?
yes, I see what
and
you're
y'all need to have that conversation when you're dating, right? When it's starting to get more serious, right?
Right.
Because if you don't, this person can be expecting it like this or this many times or in this way, and you'd be like, man, that ain't no. But you can't wait till after you get married to start diving into that, because now you're setting yourself up for failure. So I think both parties need to be sexually aware and comfortable to a certain extent, and confident, right? Like for me, this is just me. I want my woman to be able to be sexy and to know that she's sexy and to be able to be confident in her sexiness. Because I want my wife to be sexy, right? Like that's just that day. Teach his own. But I need my wife to be able to have that confidence. So Yeah, like I think it's important to be sexually compatible, even when dating, even when waiting, right? You
Right.
got to be able to have those conversations. And if you're not, I would say either you might need to have that conversation with a third party, like a counselor or something like that, so y'all can dive into it, or you just might need to mature a little bit, right? Like you got to mature a little bit and understand, like, marriage is it's more than just, oh, we love the Lord, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. That's you need that. That is an absolute necessity. But I think the sexual component about being in a marriage and being in a relationship is extremely important as well.
Yes, yes. I actually agree with you. I agree with you on that. What if you say you married this woman, you guys talked about that, y'all had a counselor and all the good stuff, but it's trash. Do you believe, and you get married and then everything is trash, right? Do you believe that, because I say this all the time. Because people say, well, don't you got to try it out first, test drive? I'm like, honestly, I don't really care. I said, because if I'm in love with someone, I mean, I'm willing to wait and we get married. If we're both in love, we're going to do what makes each other, our partners, happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really worry about that. Like, I never thought about, like, oh, what if I marry this guy and, like, it's like horrible? Because I feel like when you're madly in love, things should change. You start thinking about them rather than thinking about how you feel. That's just my opinion. I
No, no, I feel where you're coming from. And I think it's also important to say that, like, look, having sex with somebody, whether it's, one person, right? You're learning their body,
exactly.
right? What makes them tick, what makes them move. It's like a code, right? You're learning their body. And you can have buku experience before you get married, right? Meet that one, get married, and you could be trash, right? Because all those moves that
Right.
you learn and stuff, that cannot work for that person, right? So all that stuff you just did, it really don't work because this person doesn't like none of that, right?
Right.
So it's really about, are you willing to learn your wife's or husband's body, and are you willing to kind of dive into that, right? And as long as you're open for that, I think you're good. I think you're good, and I think you can make it work. But you kind of have to be. That's why I think the sexual awareness and kind of knowing yourself to a certain point is important, right? But yeah, I never really. It's an intellectual thing, like practically that makes sense. Or I got to test drive it out. But like, look, I have the rest of my life with this woman to learn her body to a T,
Right.
right? And for me,
I
as
like
long
that.
as I don't have to be the best at sex for the whole world. I just got to be the best for her, right? So that's the only goal. I'm not trying to, impress everybody else.
I like that. I like that. Someone said, do y'all think premarital counseling is necessary?
Hmm.
I think it depends on the couple. I think it's a good idea, and then if it's not needed, it's not needed. I mean, as simple as what works for you.
Yeah. Um, I agree with that. It depends on what works for you. I said for me, I'm probably going to do it just because it might give us an opportunity to kind of have certain conversations we may not
Right.
have thought about before, right? And I just think it's wise to kind of go into that and kind of know everything you're getting into before you say I do,
Mhm.
right? I would rather have it before than after, and
After-
it'd be like, dang, I didn't know none of this. So
Yes, I agree. I agree. They said this life was made for me. Every point is on point.
yeah, that's dope.
Um,
And yeah, I am from New Orleans because somebody said Bushwick. Yeah, I am from New Orleans.
okay, let's see. All right, we have, do you get unmotivated sometimes when waiting for the one God has for you? How
Yeah,
do you keep yourself motivated when you see time flying by and God hasn't given you your one yet?
that's a real question. And yeah, I do. Right. I get sometimes I get unmotivated because not that everything's about comparison, but like you look up and you see everybody just all in love. Especially yesterday, it seemed like everybody and their mama was just all booed up, and I'm like,
Did
I
you
ain't
have a
never seen none of
Valentine?
y'all with nobody,
Did
huh?
you have a Valentine?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, so it seemed like everybody was kind of booed up and everything. So, like when those things happen and see, yeah, you might get a little discouraged. I'm not gonna lie, and it might get a little lonely, it might get a little difficult. You might get a little unmotivated, right? Um, But I kind of always try to think of it like, man, I want to make myself that's most prepared for my wife when that happens, right? So if that means, okay, I got to do a little more alone work. And then not only that, I think we also need to keep in mind that, look, your wife or your husband, they might need to be working too. Like they might have some traumas they got to work through. They might have to
Right.
heal some things.
Yeah.
So timing is everything. So if you're ready and they're not ready, it ain't gonna work either, right?
Right.
So sometimes you just gotta trust that, hey, God is working on them just as
I like
much as He's working on you. You know,
I like that. Have you prayed for your future wife?
all the time, all the time,
All right.
all the time, all the time.
So
You better appreciate it too.
she is getting it together. Okay, let's see. Let's see.
Are they coming in the question box or are they coming in
Both, both. So
the
I'm looking
comment? Okay,
at the box right now, though.
okay,
But
cool.
see a question that 'cause I'm trying to scroll.
I don't see any in the comments.
Okay. Well, awesome. Let's see. Any more questions, you guys? We
Ooh,
are
I
back.
found one.
Oh, okay.
How do you know you found the one when there are so many different people?
You just know.
That's the crazy. Like it's such a cliche answer, but I think that's the it got to be an answer, right? Like when you know, and when you don't know, it probably ain't it, right? So I mean, I don't know. If I found the one, I would have
Yeah.
told y'all. So I can't say from experience, but that's what I got to go off. If you know, you know. If you don't, then it might not be it.
Do you believe in love at first sight? That thought just popped up in my head. How do you feel about that saying?
Mm, I don't know if it could be love at first sight. Maybe infatuation.
Or love?
Maybe like a deep desire, um, or maybe like a very shallow version of love, right? I don't think you can love
Okay. Right.
unconditionally off of first sight, right?
Right.
Because there's so many that goes into that. But I think you can get like the shallow level of love off of first sight. Be like, man, it's. I don't think that happens that much, but I think it's possible, right? But it's not. I don't think that's unconditional love at first sight. I
Right.
don't. I think it's so much that goes into that.
He said, "Are the questions all for him? I want to hear both sides, please. Ask away, you guys."
Hey.
Someone did say for you, how many kids do you see yourself, you and your wife, having in the future?
Um. Okay, so I'm gonna say this, but caveat: I don't know what one kid is like, so we'll see. That number could change. But I say I want four. I would love two guys, two boys, two girls. Hopefully a pair of twins in there. But I also think God might be calling me to adopt as well.
Mm,
So I think that might be a maybe a fifth. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, right? But if God gives me the financial ability, which I believe you will, and the resources to do that, then I think I will. But we'll see how one goes first. I don't have one yet, so I don't
right.
know.
And you guys, if you do have questions for me, just ask, or I'll just answer the questions as well. It says, "What are your thoughts on being unequally yoked?" Ooh.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
First, let me ask you, what is unequally yoked for you?
So unequally yoked means different beliefs, right? So like if you're a different religion or different core beliefs, not even in because you could be in the same religion and still have different core
Here
beliefs,
we go.
right? So and this is something I always ask, like, what are your beliefs? Just because people say they're Christian, that don't mean we're all Christian. So do you believe in the Trinity, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, God, are all the same person, right? You believe he's your savior. He's like, you know what I mean? Like certain foundational core beliefs that every Christian needs to have. That is a good start, right? Now, I also think if you want to dive a little deeper, it depends on like the levels, right? Of like
That's
your I don't want to say your level of Christianity, but your how to explain it. You know
spiritual,
what I mean?
maybe spirituality.
Your maturity. I think that's a
It-
yes. Your spiritual maturity. I think that's important because, and no shade, but somebody can be, a baby Christian, right? Um, and you could be in the game for, a whole lot of maturity lessons and sessions and stuff. And maybe you're just not on the same page, and it might not work because you're talking about this and she's just, maybe just trying to learn the scriptures, right? Or trying to learn the stories.
Right.
Me being in the Bible Belt, I can't take it for granted that everybody just knows these stories from when they're young, right? Because they teach us that, when we're extremely young. So, but I will say with that, growth rate is something you have to kind of give a little grace on, right? Because literally, I've seen God take somebody from a baby or lukewarm Christian to literally on fire to a whole different level within months, right? Within months. So you gotta kind of give a little grace with that because you never know like how the Spirit is going to move in their life. So yeah, but yeah, definitely don't be unequally yoked.
Yeah, to answer that question, it's pretty much the same thing. Ditto. There's times when you could be going to the same church, y'all reading. I mean, same pastor, same. You're under the same, leadership, and still be unequally yoked.
Hmm.
And I've learned that because at times I used to always be like, okay, so what do you believe in? I'll ask all the like deep questions. Okay, what do you believe in? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Da, 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 da. And then I realized, like, even when the ones who checked yes to all of that, we were still unequally yoked.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like I'm dating someone who's in the church, we're serving the same God, and we're still unequally yoked. So when you said maturity, that's how I feel like you have to be spiritually mature equally. Like I feel like they have to understand because in my past relationships, and I'm not putting nobody's name on blast because they may be watching, honestly.
Right.
There was times that God would wake me up at night and give me a word or give me a song that my church would sing the next morning, or like when I say a full-blown word, like I'm like, am I gonna be like a preacher or something? Because like, oh, he will wake me up with a full-blown word. And I used to call the person who I was dating at the time, and they did not understand. And there was a point where God would give me things, and they had the nerve to say, "Are you doing voodoo or something?" They didn't understand,
Yeah, because they
and
just wasn't on that level yet. Yeah.
and just don't want to be on that level. Sometimes it's not even being on that level yet. It's just they don't want to open their mind to even be on that level.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and I was just like, now you say I'm doing witchcraft and voodoo and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? And so I was like, you know what? I have to take a step back and reevaluate why am I picking these type of people anyways to begin with. So I love that what you said, because it's not always about, oh, we believe in the same God. It's not always about that. So I love what you
Yeah,
said.
it's deeper. It's just so much deeper than that. Um, yeah, so much deeper than that.
Okay, here we go. Do you require that your wife is a believer, a virgin? Okay, so do you?
A believer or or both?
They questioned it wrong, but do you require your wife to be a virgin?
No,
Okay.
not at all. That has never been a requirement for me or something I look at. Right? If she is cool, I mean, you don't find many of them, but just in general. But nah, like it's not something I look for, right? And I will say this: it's dang near impossible because, like I said, it's a fine line, and I don't know all the ins and outs of how like to really attain this, but to be a virgin and to still like have a sexual confidence or awareness of oneself, that is really hard, right? I mean, shoot, I mean, I like to think I've done it to a certain extent, but I don't even know, right? But that's definitely not something I look at. As long as I will say this, her past experience, she says, is healing or has healed from those,
There we go.
and is willing to obviously move forward in that when she's with me. I think if we can do those things, I think we're good.
Christopher, you knocking this out of the park. You know how to interview, okay?
Hey, God's been training me a lot.
I'm like, every question you just hitting out of the park, you're taking my answers. Like, that's why I'm not speaking, you guys, because he's like, he's doing a great job, okay? Like, seriously. Someone says, is political views a deal breaker? Let's say you meet someone who has everything you ask for, okay? She's fine as wine, she's no kids, single. She has everything, but yet she's a Trump lover, or she literally disagree with everything you're speaking of politically.
Um, Not really, because for me, I'm not like huge into politics. To be being honest with you, my whole thing is I think the one side has some things right, the other side has some things right. I don't think nobody's just straight
Right.
out evil. I think hey, they have a certain perspective. Some things I agree with, like even with Trump. I'm gonna be honest. Like some
Yeah.
things I agree with. I don't disagree with everything the man has ever said in his life, but some things is like heck no, like not even close. But that's same with even Obama. I agree with some
Yeah.
things he
Yeah.
did, and I agree with some things he didn't do. Right.
Right.
So I think as long as we can kind of talk through that, and we can like really dive into why do you see it this way, or why do you see that way, or like the root of those things, right? Because I don't know if there will be any candidate ever that I'm just like, oh, everything they say I'm on point. Because even America, I don't agree with America. Everything America kind of does and promotes and doesn't promote. We say we're a nation under God, but a lot of times people try to take God out. So it's I don't know. I don't think the political thing is necessarily a deal breaker for me. As long as you can defend and have an open discussion about it, and our views can be on the same line, I think we can be good.
Right. Right. Another question, when you think you have found the one, how would you approach them without scaring them off, whether it be in person or online?
You talking about from like me approaching? I don't know. Like I think you gotta, you can't, you cannot. I repeat this: you cannot get so overwhelmed and be like, oh, this the one. I want to get married to you tomorrow. X, Y, and Z. Yada yada yada. You gotta chill. You gotta chill and relax, right? Even if you might be like confirmations there, all this good stuff, you gotta chill, right? Because that's a lot to take in on like the first interaction, and I've learned that too. I've learned that you gotta just relax and be in the moment. That's something I've learned too. You got to be in the moment, right? And kind of compartmentalize things to a certain extent. Hey, we're going to go out on a date. It's going to be a great date. No matter how it goes, I'm going to enjoy the date, and it's going to be one date, and that's it. It ain't the rest of your life. It's not the start of, forever. It's none of that. It's one great date, and then the next date, just have another great date. And just see where it goes. Like, do not, and I do this too. Right? I watch all the romantic comedies, and I know women probably do this too. So like you'll have one experience, and then your mind will start racing of, oh, I can't wait to do this with this person or do that with this person.
Yeah.
No, it's just one date. Enjoy the date, maximize the opportunity. Because to be honest, we're not promised tomorrow. Like just in a life sense, right? So just enjoy it, be in the moment. And if it is the one, just write it down. Literally get a journal, write it down. On this day we had this. God gave me this confirmation, X, Y, and Z. Don't tell him that yet, but just keep writing it down. Create a law. So when that time does come and he does propose or whatever, then you can
Go
be
back.
like, hey, baby, I knew it from the first, people say, I knew it from the first day. I know. No, you can show, hey, I knew it from the first day I met you.
Yeah.
So just take it slow and chill.
Yes, and yeah, I want to encourage. Yeah, you need to encourage these guys to start writing in journals. I see a lot of women doing it, but I don't see a lot of men writing in journals and getting their feelings out on paper. So
Yeah.
that's what's up. That's what's up.
I probably need to get it more on paper because I just do it either on my laptop or my phone. I probably need to do it on my favorite, but yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you this question: have you ever told a woman before that she was your wife, like you're my wife? Have you ever said that to someone before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That is a huge. I've heard women tell
yeah,
me that before, like, "Oh, I'm your wife," and
yeah.
that is a huge statement, right? I've never said that before, or at least to a woman before. Like I said, I take that extremely serious. To be honest, I'm gonna be honest. I've never said I'm in love with a woman like to a woman before.
Oh,
I've never been there yet. And not that I don't have love for women or like for every woman I've dated seriously, I have love for them. I will always love them, right? But I don't think I've been in love to a certain extent. Now, as I've grown, I've understood like there's levels of love, right? Like you can dive deeper in and you can get to that unconditional level. So looking back, I probably could have said it and been a little more open with that. Because I think I was, right, especially with my last. I probably could have been more open with that aspect, and just understood that it's deeper, right? As you can constantly do life with somebody, as you do those things, it gets
Yeah.
deeper. But no, I never said, "Hey, this person is my wife." Not yet, at least. Well, hopefully not yet.
No, that's literally the way that you can scare somebody off. For the one who asked that question, it was scary for me. I had that happen to me numerous times. Like when I say, like just like oh, like one conversation out of one talk, this guy said, "I think you're my wife," and like my whole body shook. I was like, "What is he talking about?" And so I was like, that scared me off. Now that could have been something, but honestly, you just like you said, you gotta just take your time. Like you don't, if that's your wife, tell God, tell God. You don't have to tell anybody. And same for women. If a woman sees somebody and she's like, "Man, I think this is my husband," do not tell him that. Literally, you will chase this man off.
And
So,
not just that, it's gonna make so much of a better story if you write it down or you do some things, and
so
then all of a sudden you be like, "Hey, this is what happened," right? I think there's a woman, I saw it online or something. Uh, she was at like a tailgate or something, and she was like, "Hey," she actually did that. Matter of fact, I think she went up to him and was like, "Hey, you gonna be my husband?" And it ended up working out and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that works out for everybody. So
okay, let's see. We got man, questions are pouring in now. Um, what are both your thoughts on online dating?
what you think?
My thoughts on online dating. It's a thing now. I mean, you don't have to even go on a dating website or a dating. You
It's
really don't.
Instagram,
Yeah, Instagram is that. Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, I mean,
TikTok, yeah.
I'm not turning that down. So like, if there's someone who's interested, or I'm interested in them, and we go out on a date, we go on a date. I mean, I really don't have much to say on that because it's the thing now. It's been the thing.
Right, right.
That's how.
But I will say this: if you're trying to do the thing on Instagram and I guess cultivate something out of nothing, make sure you coming with it because you got to think they have access to like literally like everybody, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to shoot your shot or like be open to the online dating through Instagram or whatever like that, you got to make sure like you coming with it, right? It's from somebody that's I guess learned this whole social media thing. It's like I've gotten some women DM me talking about like I'm your wife, and they don't have a profile picture, or their profile is private, or it's just something like or a meme or something up there, and I'm like never, and who knows? You could be a nice like you never know, but it's
Right.
like if you're not open, you can't like that's just not. It's never gonna work that way. I
Right.
think at least.
I also want to say, like, for women dating online, be careful, please. Like, be careful.
Catfish is real.
Be careful. I'm gonna say it again. Be careful because people are crazy out there. You got stalkers, people who killing people on first dates and stuff like that. I see it all the time on the news, and even like social media influencers dying because of someone online. So be careful with the online dating. Really get to know who they are first, and not
FaceTime them
yeah,
immediately
find
as
them.
soon as you can.
Yeah, you can even do like a FaceTime on Instagram. Like,
Yep,
there's ways of going about it. So don't just go out and just start dating people online without really knowing who they are.
I agree.
Thoughts on long distance? Does that work personally for you guys? Good.
Mm. I think it can be difficult. Like my love language is touch, so I kind of like having my woman like near me to a certain extent. Um, but it really depends. I'm gonna be honest. It's weird because a lot of times we say all these things right of what you wouldn't do, what you would do, but for the right work person, you would do a little more, right? So like if it's the right one, man, we gonna make it work. Like you can be in Vegas or you can be in LA or New York or whatever. We gonna make it work. If like this is like really something serious,
Right.
right? So it really depends on the person.
Same for me. I've been in tons of long distance relationships, believe it or not. And like I want to say my last two or three were long distance. It can work. But both parties have to be in it to win it, because you can't expect one person to be flexible and you're not. Like, both
Right.
parties have to be flexible. Y'all have to know how to communicate. That's the number one thing, because when you're long distance, you communicate more.
Mm.
Because you've got to build that trust somehow. And just understanding, like, you can't expect someone to, and I'm speaking from experience, you can't expect someone to move, leave everything here and move because you think you got more going on than they do. That's
Right.
not fair. And if you guys had the conversation before y'all even made it official that you were going to be flexible and that actually you were moving, or because you got to talk about it before it even gets to that, level of, I want to be with this person. And
Right.
then get into the relationship, it all changes. And no, you moving here because I said so. That's unfair. So it really, both parties have to be open minded,
Yeah.
flexible, and honest. Say, hey, I don't see myself moving to Georgia. Do you? Like, that should be like the first conversation. That should be like
Yeah.
top conversations for a long distance relationship. Yes, I see myself moving. Okay, then we can work it out. You got to talk about that stuff.
I agree. Talk about everything. Everything.
Just put it on a piece of paper and just lay it all out at this point.
Yeah.
Communication is key. Communication is key to successful relationships in general. You never know if you don't ask, and assumptions don't do nothing good for you.
Nothing.
Okay, let's see. So, personal question. Y'all don't think y'all could be a match? The reason why I ask is because for me, if I have something in common and they get me, I want to know more and get to know them more because it's not common. We run into like-minded people like this. That may just be my problem. So do we think we're a match? That's we will never know that unless we
Right.
tried.
I mean, so I think there's so many things to that, but like just generally speaking, you have to, like, just because people are good on paper, right? Or there's commonalities of, like, with people, and they're both good people, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work to a sense, you know what I mean? And not to say, because we get to the point where, hey, it's kind of marriage or not, right? So, and it could work for a while. It could be great. It could be a blessing, right? But that doesn't necessarily guarantee that, hey, it's going to be, marriage and forever after and stuff like that. So I
Right.
really, and that's what, like me, I try not to put that pressure on anybody from the jump, right? Because now you're putting so much pressure on a relationship from the jump just because they're Christian, or y'all, have a lot of common things, or y'all see a lot of things in a certain way, which are all good things. I'm not saying, but once you put that pressure on, it could make it very difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% because I try not to have a check, like a box and a check mark, if somebody's meeting those qualities, I stop telling people what I look for.
Mm.
One reason is because then that person will try to be that, and they can pretend, or not even pretend, but they just automatically, like, okay, she wants this, she wants that. So now they're trying to be this person that they're not.
Right.
That's one thing. Two, I don't need to tell them. I got God. I'm talking straight up to God. If they meet those qualities, then it's just gonna work. But for me, a lot of times people ask me, okay, what do you look for in a guy? I give them like vague answers. I don't give them detailed answers and stuff like that. That's putting too much pressure on them and me. And you don't really need to know that. If
Yeah.
that's just my opinion, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have to put pressure onto someone or have them start pretending to be something that they're not, because that happens a lot as well.
You meet the qualifications, you meet them.
I don't have to tell you
It is
nothing.
what it is,
And,
right?
and you will know that you meet the qualifications because you'll see that I'm interested.
Mm.
Someone said you can have a lot in common with someone you're not purpose to be with. That's true.
Yep.
I have a few friends that we have a lot in common, but it's not it.
Right.
Facts, but discussing your expectations are important. That's different.
That's very different.
That's different. Go ahead and share what you think, your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody needs to, especially when you're dating, you need to kind of discuss like your expectations. I think that's extremely important because if not, you could be expecting certain, not just, and it's not just expectations. It's expectations. It's the value you see in certain things, right? So, for example, somebody can be like, "Hey, when you meet my parents, that means a whole lot." Somebody can be like, it's cool. Most people meet my parents. I'm around them most of the time, so it's not like a huge deal.
Right.
But based on that person can be like, oh, I guess we're this serious because now he met my parents and this and this and this. And then you could be like, oh, that's not really a big deal for me.
Right.
Right. So like that discussion of having not just talk about the expectations but like what's your value, like what certain things do you value, right? I think all those, and then nowadays, social media, right? Do you post on social media? If you post me, is that a huge deal? Is it not a big deal? Like what all? Because that might be different for everybody, and you can't just go into it and expecting that this is the exact same for everybody because it's not.
I like that social media thing. I think I stopped posting on Facebook that I was in a relationship probably like high school. I said, y'all no more. Because it was just embarrassment. Like one day I'm saying in a relationship and then the next day I'm saying I'm single. It's like,
right. Right.
I'm going to wrap this up with this last question.
Okay.
You've been great. I've learned stuff from you as well. And
vice versa.
Man, you're awesome. So this last question says, is PDA a thing as a Christian? I know a lot of people say that you need to watch your reputation when you're a Christian.
I'm gonna give you the lawyer answer. It depends, right? I like I said, touch is my love language, and I love showing affection and stuff like that with that person. I think there's a level. Don't get me wrong. But let's say I'm married. Oh no, you gonna be seeing PDA with me. It is what it is, and if you feel some type of way, it is. But I'm married, right? This is how God intended it to be. So you're gonna see all of it, right? No, you know what I mean. Like you're gonna see me kissing my wife, me hugging my wife, me touching my wife, all that stuff, right?
When married.
Yeah. When I'm married, now when I'm dating, yeah, you still might see a certain level of PDA. It's not gonna cross a certain line, but like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you got to know your environment, know the person you're with, and then two, automatic like see what is comfortable for both of y'all, right?
Right.
What you think?
I agree. I mean, like I promise you guys, I want to give an answer, but he's taking. I'm going to start answering the questions first next time. But I agree 100%. One more question, because I promise you, everybody just keep.
It's all good. I'm good. Let's do it.
Do you feel that a lot of people are being overlooked because of superficial reasons? Yes. Go ahead. I say.
You go. You say yes.
Yes.
Is that a bad thing though?
Explain.
So you said, are a lot of people being overlooked for superficial reasons? Certain reasons, I think, although it may be on the face superficial, like it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? So like if you're, and I run into this all the time, like if you're a woman of God and you're on fire and you're all that things, but you're not taking care of your body, if you're not looking the part, if you're not attracted, then no, like a dude might look, and you might be a good woman, but a dude is just not going to be like, oh, that's what I see, that's what I want, right? Because It's just not, you're not making it attractive or enticing to be like, oh, like I want you as my wife, you know what I mean?
That's why. So yes. That's why.
Yeah, so I think people are being overlooked because they're superficial. But I don't blame them because at the end of the day, you're married. Like if the goal is marriage, you're marrying somebody for the rest of your life. And if you're not attracted to them physically,
right, then
okay, you could be brother and sister in Christ and have fun with that. But no, I need to be sexually and physically and attracted to my wife. I need to be desiring my wife. If you don't have that, then it's not gonna work. I mean,
I say that all the time. I say you have. Well, for me, I'm like you have to be attract. You have to attract me in some type of way. Now, you may not be super looker. You could be like kind of average, you know. But
That's okay. We're gonna.
hold on, hold on.
I'm gonna adjust that. I'm gonna let you go.
But the way you think in our conversation makes you even more attractive to me. There's a lot of times I could date someone. I'm like, man, they're so cute, you know, and because of their conversation, the way they are, how they treat me, that our minds are like aligned. But other people, they're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, he is just so cute. He makes me attracted to him. So I say you have to be attracted to a person some type of way. So why
I'm,
laughing?
I'm gonna say this because I think that's
That's women.
solely, yes, I think that's a solely women thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a woman thing through and through because I don't know many guys that's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not really attracted to her, but I started talking to her and I started like falling for her. And no, I haven't met many dudes like that. So
Right.
like that works for women, but
Yeah.
women understand that doesn't really work for men, right? We're very visual, we're very aesthetic like
Yes.
beings. So you gotta look you gotta look fine to them, right? If you don't, then that's
Yeah.
not no.
And
That's
that's
not.
okay because it's like whatever your preference is, that's your preference. Like it, you know, it is what it is. Everybody's laughing right now.
I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real because that ain't
No, I agree with you. Like I literally agree with you. But you know, ladies, they understand what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Okay.
I just want the ladies to understand it don't work that same way for men, right? So you looking and you be like, hey, why don't he like me? And it's like, well, you're not, or you your best self, and that means physically as well.
Come on, I like that. She said, Olivia said, mine has to be fine. Girl, I know. I'm just using that as an example.
Nah, you said average. She said average. Don't let her back
No,
out of
I
that.
said, yeah,
Average looker.
yeah. So, but I'm just saying, like, whatever.
I feel you. I feel you.
Okay, dating for a 22-year-old Christian, nowhere near marriage. Advice on how I should proceed regarding sexual encounters.
Okay. You want to go? You want to take it first?
Sexual encounters. How should you proceed? Just, I feel like we make it so complicated, and I say we as just a whole. You know, sexual encounters mean that you must be close to them, meaning that you're there in order for that to happen. Just don't get yourself in that situation. It's really that simple to me in how I think. If you want to avoid something, you don't be around it. You don't stay around it. You don't mingle with it. If you have to literally take yourself out of the room in order for to get yourself straight, do whatever it takes. But hold on, let me go back. So proceeding regarding sexual encounters, just don't, if you struggle in that area, just don't be around it. Don't be around somebody that can get you in that way, somebody that you're
Yeah.
attracted to. I feel like it's just really that simple. Like that's how I've been doing it. I don't put myself in situations, and when I do put myself in situations, because I have before, things don't. Real quick, what just happened? I got a call. Give me.
Yeah. So like how to move forward like with that. I think one you have to be very self-aware, right? I think you got to know yourself. And once you know yourself, I think that's going to put you in a good place to kind of not put yourself in those situations, right? So once you kind of can be very self-aware and be like, no, these are my triggers. Hey, I know what I can handle. I know what I can't handle, and then create boundaries according to that, right? So once you kind of get self-aware and knowing where you're super weak at and what you can't handle, then start making boundaries with that person to kind of uh, stay away from those encounters. But also, I want to encourage anybody. Hey, if you slipped up or messed up or it's not the devil always makes it seem after like a sin that it's the end of the world. No, like we have gotten grace. Just repent from it and get back on that horse and be like, hey, I dropped the ball yesterday. I'm back on it. We're gonna attack this new day, and I'm gonna win the day, right?
Yes.
And just move forward like that, right? It's not gonna be the end of the world. God has given us grace, but just going with the intention of I'm going to strive to become better, right? So yeah,
Nice. Can you hear me?
yep.
Okay. Sorry, somebody was calling. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, I appreciate any other questions that you see that you may want to answer before we.
Uh, I think there was one about like this person has asked it a couple of times. What are your thoughts on idolatry of marriage in the church?
Okay. What are your thoughts?
Um, One, everybody's not called to be married. I get that. Um, I think in a lot of times, like in today's society, it's kind of popular, right? Because everybody wants to get married. They want to do the pictures and stuff like that. But yeah, I think people probably idolize it to a certain extent. Not that it's a bad thing or anything like that, but we just have to understand like everything. Timing is everything, right? And everything happens in seasons. Um, and you can't get caught up in like, oh, like you have to feel complete, like you have to be complete in order to be married, right? Or to marriage is going to complete you, right? I think it's going to
Yeah.
maybe give you a different aspect or perspective, or you're going to find a different aspect of who you are throughout marriage. But man, understand, like marriage is hard too. Like I said, you're going to have to carry the cross either way. So do everything that you possibly can do and enjoy your single seasons and get to work and to learn new things, to travel new places, do everything you can while you're single. So when that time does come in of marriage in the right time, you can, enjoy the fullness of that, right? So just be careful with that. I know a lot of people, idolize marriage and stuff, and it's a blessing, right? It's a great thing. But just you know, just don't get involved with the hype, right?
Yes. For me, I would say that there's a time that I did pray to God. I said, if I'm supposed to be single, then I'm going to be the most happiest single person on the planet. Being married is not the final destination. And that's what a lot of people think it is. They think, oh, once I get married, that's it. And woo. And then when you actually like, oh, like I'm married, like I got to put in some work. I got to still work. It's still a job. Like I still got to put in effort. Um,
Yeah.
it's not the final destination. Like that's just another goal that somebody may have. And
Yep.
we gotta stop with the, oh, once you're married, everything gonna be okay.
Because it's gonna be more. It's always gonna be something.
Oh,
It's always gonna be
once you're
something.
married, you can finally have sex. Yeah, that's true. But once you get married, and a lot of people marry just to have sex, honestly, but we're not going to get into that one. But it's just like, I feel like a lot of people think, oh, once you're married, you done it, girl. Because let me tell you, my mom, she still asks me, so when you going to get married? When you going to have kids? I'm like, you got grandkids already. Why you worry about me? Like, you got about four grandkids. Like,
Mhm.
why you worry about me right now? But like it's so much like pressure and stress, like especially when you get to a specific age, like when you're in your late 20s to 30s, all of a sudden like, oh my God, I have to be married because if I'm not married, that means something's wrong with me. No, it's not. Nothing is wrong with you. Maybe God has you on another path. And just because
Yeah.
you're in your mid 30s and you're not married with no kids doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It does not mean something's wrong with you. Continue to stay focused. And if that's something that you really want and that's a desire that you want, talk to God about it. But don't let
Yeah.
nobody pressure you until you get married, because then they pressure you to get married, then you'll see yourself getting a divorce because of a rushed decision based off of other people's opinions.
Right. I saw one question, and it seemed like a lot of people was feeling it, about should women views on women shooting their shot. What you think, being a woman?
Okay, so girl, if you decide that you want to shoot your shot, shoot your shot. For me, I don't see nothing wrong with a woman shooting their shot. So let me say that before I say it. I don't see nothing wrong with women shooting their shot. I actually have some good friends who are married now because the woman actually stepped forward and shoot her shot. And I was like, dang girl, you bold. For me, I normally don't. And I was talking to someone about this. And this is just my preference. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I said, if a man is interested, he would reach out. And they said, well, what if he's like scared to, or what if, he doesn't have the confidence into reaching out to you, or what if he see you and like, oh, I'm scared to. I was like, well, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I'm like, it's kind of like a personal problem. If you're not bold enough to say anything and you're really interested in me, then I don't know what to say, because
Yeah.
sometimes I get a lot of messages, and a lot of things I don't even really like. I will overlook. I may not even know you're interested in me, and I may, you know what I'm saying. So it's like, if you present yourself, say, "Hey, yo, I'm interested." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
let me check you out a little bit." I'll just say men don't really approach women anymore. If you get rejected, it hurts more. I'm not really, the reason why I don't do it has nothing to do with rejection for me. I just don't personally do it because I feel like if someone is interested in me, that they will reach out. And it's that simple. Rejection, I think I'm surpassed rejection stages right now. I don't really, that doesn't make my decisions or anything. Now, have I ever told a guy like, you cute, or flirted with him? Yes, of course. The men don't really approach women anymore. What makes you say that,
I'm
Brienne?
so I'm gonna say this, right? Um, Women, there's nothing wrong with shooting your shot. Absolutely nothing wrong with shooting your shot. I think we have to define though, shooting your shot is okay, but pursuing a man, you should never do. I don't think no woman should ever pursue a man, right? That means actively and intentionally, consistently going after the same guy over and over and over and over again. No.
Like that.
If you want to show interest, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Whether that be shooting your shot, commenting on something, liking a picture, do whatever, right? Shoot your shot. I will say this: if you're going to shoot your shot, make sure you come with it, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Now, once you shoot your shot and kind of put yourself in the vicinity, like, oh, he knows who you are. If he wants you, he'll pursue you.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's reality. If he wants you, he'll pursue you. If he's not, then he won't. But I definitely don't think there's nothing wrong with that. And for like dudes that are shy or whatever, it's not that serious, man. Like
It's
I think we put all this extra like pressure on ourselves to like, I don't know, be like the movies or something, man. Just be creative. Use what God is kind of giving you, right? If He's giving you an opportunity to kind of be funny or witty, or you like art or poetry, use what works for you, right? And if she likes it, cool. If she don't, cool. There's a billion other women, right? Like, so don't overthink it too much, because I'm gonna be honest, a lot of women on that first interaction, man, if you could just have a good conversation, I think that's a great start, right? You don't have to woo them with a pickup line. You ain't got to be the Fresh Prince or nothing like that. If you can start off and just have like a real good conversation, I think that's a great start to kind of start something.
yes, 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 yes. And I love how you broke down the difference between pursuing and shooting your shot. Like,
Yeah,
I love
there's a
that.
big difference.
People get that, like this. Awesome. Well, she said, like, let's be friends. Who? You want to be friends with Christopher?
Or was she saying like that's how you shooting your shot?
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just in my experience. Oh, they're responding to it. Okay.
Okay.
Well, go ahead and give your last bit of anything else you would like to share before the live. Man, we're going into like 2 hours.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know. But hey, it's been great. It's been great.
yes.
Um, yeah, I hope y'all, enjoyed this live. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all following both of us. Man, hopefully we can definitely do this again. I just want to say I appreciate you and thank you. It's an honor to kind of, share this platform with you and come on and, hopefully we help some people. Hopefully we gave y'all a different perspective or anything like that. I appreciate it. Hopefully we should be doing more lives together. Yeah.
Yes, I want to definitely. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. Like, man, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna apologize for crying. I hope, people didn't take a snapshot of that one. But like, keep
No, it's all
going
good.
and keep going. Like, you're an awesome man of God. And I can see why people are in your inbox, okay? I'm surprised you didn't have a Valentine's Day a date. But
No,
It don't matter. It don't matter. God has something amazing for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Go back to the replay. Like, seriously, you guys are awesome. And if you have any questions for him, I know I've seen a question saying that, would you ever mentor young men? Is that
Oh,
something?
I do all the time. I do all the time. I do it through training, do it through
Yeah.
football, do it through, young men just reaching out. That I'm a firm believer in paying it forward. So if you're a young guy or you need to talk or I got a question, hit me up and I'll try my best to see it and respond as soon as possible. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love doing that. I have to do that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
called to do.
Definitely. And for me, same with you guys. I'm a life coach. I know all about the relationships and waiting and all that good stuff. So if you need to hit me up on the inbox on something private, let me know. And thanks for tuning in.
And
Thank
and you saving this live, huh? Because
Yes,
people
I'm
are
still
asking that too.
live. And thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you for the words of encouragement. I appreciate you.
Thanks for making me cry.